What we're going to do now is a purebred dog scenario, and the question is who has the better welfare, the Great Pyrenees dog or the English Bulldog? And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this welfare judging competition concept, we're going to start with a little bit of background. So if you've been here before and you've heard it, I've changed it up just a little bit to make it more interesting. So bear with us. Okay, this is a picture of a beagle, as you can tell. This beagle was gifted to me by my friend, the shelter vet. And the reason that this picture is here is because last year we forgot to introduce ourselves. So the beagle is to remind me to say that, hi, I'm Lana Kaiser. This is my 4th career. I started out as a poet. Then I became a human internist. Then I became a biomedical researcher. And now I'm a cattle veterinarian and I raise registered cattle. And so that was the trip that got me here. I'm very interested in animal welfare, and particularly in welfare of cattle.
And I'm Dr. Cathy Anderson, and this has been sort of my first career, but I've done a lot of different things as a veterinarian. It's a wonderful, wonderful profession. I am, like Lana, a part of the Michigan MVMA Animal Welfare Group, and also on the Legislative Committee. And just so you know, I'm trying to keep Lana from doing anything stupid where she might die suddenly, because I get that dog back in her will.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe? No. Okay. Can you hear me now? All right. Sound like a television ad. For those of you who don't know about the welfare judging competition, this was created basically by Cami Haleski, who at one point in time was the manager of the MSU horse program, the horse management program, and she developed the livestock judging, welfare judging contest assessment for her PhD. She's left us, she's gone to the University of Kentucky, which is sad for those of us who are interested in animal welfare in this area, but she's going to continue with that down there. There's a paper for anybody who's interested listed on the bottom of this slide that describes how she came up with this concept. Anybody here familiar with livestock judging besides you, Matt Miller? Okay. So basically, what happens with livestock judging is that you are shown some number of animals, either in person or, in this case, on a picture, and they are all basically of the same type and kind. So you wouldn't compare a pig to a cow, and you wouldn't compare a horse to a dog. So we have 4 Brahma heifers, and you, as the cattle judge, knowing what criteria you're looking at, would look at those 4 heifers and place them 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th based on what your criteria are. So on any given day, my judge has placed these as 3, 1, 2, 4. On another day, my judge might place them 1, 3, 2, 4. What you're looking at is what's going on right now at this moment. Not what happened yesterday, not what happened tomorrow, but what happens now, and you judge them based on that. So that seems all very scientific, but then you look at what it is that you prefer. And so when I look at these 2 red Angus cows, and I assume that they're both the same age and the same gestation, I pick cow number 2 over cow number 1. Now, somebody else might pick cow number 1 over cow number 2. It depends on what you prefer. And so when we're doing judging of welfare, you have to be aware of what your preferences are and what your bias is. So we as humans, we have our animals do a lot of weird things, and we think that they may enjoy it. We actually do it oftentimes because we enjoy it. And we need to be aware that perhaps that horse down there doesn't like being dressed up as a lion and bouncing around. Maybe he does, but to be aware that this might not be their preference. Okay, Cathy's going to start with the characteristics of the breed because I need a drink of water.
All right, so we're going to discuss the characteristics of the breed. The way we play this game is Lana takes one breed, I take the other. I am going to go ahead and be honest with this. Lana owns a Great Pyrenees, so guess which breed she's taking. Okay, so I'm going to start the discussion with the English Bulldog. The English Bulldog was originally bred in England as the butcher's dog. It was reconfigured in the 1800s as a companion dog and is bred today as a companion/family dog. It is calm, courageous, and friendly. It requires little exercise and does not require a yard, making them fine apartment pets. They are people-oriented and seek human attention. They are medium-sized, thick-bodied, short-coated dog, and they may drool and snore.
And the reason we're telling you about the breed characteristics is because you need to have a baseline in order to understand whether or not you think the welfare is good, bad, or indifferent for the specific dog. And yes, I do own Great Pyrenees. Great Pyrenees were bred in the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France. Their goal in life was to work independently and to guard livestock or territory. Currently in the U.S., they're used as livestock and ranch dogs and as companion dogs. They're calm, gentle, and docile, but they are also willful and stubborn. They will wander if they're not fenced, and they're known barkers. In addition, they don't excel in obedience, and they are large, hairy dogs that may drool. So the way we're going to do this is these are the categories we're going to discuss, and you should have them on your handouts. Everybody got a handout? Okay. We're going to go through the breeding history of the parents of the dogs in question, their puppy life, first year, living situation, daily life, activities, nutrition, socialization, veterinary care, and then special considerations for that specific breed. Now you need to be aware that these dogs, Roo and Max, they're virtual dogs. They are basically dogs that are a collage of other dogs and experiences put together for the purposes of this discussion. So we're going to introduce the dogs, describe their situations, and then ask the question, who has the better welfare? And you guys are going to have 5 minutes to cogitate on who has the better welfare. And then we're going to poll you to find out what you think. And then we're going to give reasons just like you give in livestock judging. Okay, so here's our purebred dog scenario. Our Great Pyrenees is Roo. She's a 6-year-old female spayed dog, and she weighs 85 pounds.
And then our English Bulldog is Max. He is a 6-year-old male-neutered 50-pound dog.
Okay, in terms of breeding history of the parents of our dogs, the Great Pyrenees, it was a planned natural breeding. The parents were ranch dogs. They did have their hips x-rayed. The vaccination of the parents was up to date. The parents were registered with the AKC. The dam was checked frequently when she was due to whelp. There were 7 puppies that were born unassisted. They were born in a whelping box in the barn, and the owners of the dogs planned to sell 5 and keep 2.
The English Bulldog was the result of a planned artificial breeding. The parents were AKC champions. There were no pre-breeding x-rays. The dam was up to date on vaccinations and tested for brucella. The puppies were born by a planned C-section at a veterinary clinic, and all puppies had been spoken for or sold before birth.
Gesundheit. In terms of puppy life, less than 8 weeks of old, so these would be puppies that were still with the breeder. The puppies were socialized, the Great Pyrenees puppies were socialized to humans, family, and employees of the ranch, and exposed to livestock. They were vaccinated at 6 weeks by the breeder. They were purchased by a family in Wisconsin based on recommendations, pictures, and email communication. They were examined by a veterinarian prior to being transported, and this dog was transported at 9 weeks in an airplane from Montana. And when she arrived, she got out of the crate and she was wagging her tail.
The English Bulldog, the puppies were socialized to humans by the breeder and the breeder's family. The puppies had wellness examinations and vaccinations at 7 weeks of age. Shortly after that, the puppy was purchased by a couple after seeing the female at a local dog show. He was picked up from the breeder at 9 weeks. He was transported by car in a small crate, and he slept most of the 6-hour drive.
Okay, for the first year of life, the Great Pyrenees was examined by a veterinarian after she arrived for physical exam, vaccinations, and deworming. She was trained in basic commands, which is not easy for a Great Pyrenees, by the family, and she knows sit, down, wait, paw, flop, touch, up, jumps into the truck, and cookie time, which, if you know anything about Great Pyrenees, they have terrible recall. So if you use cookie time, it becomes a recall.
The English Bulldog was examined by a veterinarian after arrival to make sure that the wellness exam was normal and for vaccinations and deworming. He attended puppy obedience school, for what it was worth. He knows sit, down, settle, potty, stop before a curve or stairs, and who's handsome. He cocks his head. And he knows how to play dead.
Okay, in terms of living situation, the Great Pyrenees lives on a family farm, which is 25 acres in northern Wisconsin. 20 of these acres are fenced, so the dog has free range. There are trails and a pond in this 20 acres. There are 2 adults and 3 teenagers in this family.
The English Bulldog lives with a couple in an apartment in Boston, Massachusetts. The apartment is up 1 flight from a bookstore that the couple owns, and so the couple owns and works right there at the same site.
In terms of daily life, the Pyrenees spends most of her life outside in all kinds of weather. She walks the perimeter at will 2 or 3 times a day. She spends a lot of the day just sitting down and guarding her territory. She may or may not follow the family when they ride on the trails or walk on the trails.
The English Bulldog spends most of the day inside on a dog bed. His walks are kept to a minimum in hot weather. He's given a Kong 1 or 2 times per day with whipped cream or peanut butter inside. I did not pick the whipped cream. I wanted Cheese Whiz. He wears a coat in the cold and rainy weather.
Okay, in terms of activities, and we can blame anybody here who knows Dr. Missy Owings. She is the whipped cream person who puts whipped cream in a cup so that dogs who are getting acupuncture will have something to do while they're getting acupuncture. Okay, sorry, I digress. In terms of activities, the Great Pyrenees has free access to the fenced 20 acres. She has a dog door so she can access the mudroom or the kitchen anytime she wants to. She rides in the front seat of a pickup truck with the window open. She can stick her head out. She jumps in and out of the truck. She's off leash when she gets in and out of the truck.
The English Bulldog is leash walked 2 to 3 times a day and goes about 1 to 2 blocks. He spends the day in the bookstore and nights in the apartment. He rides in the back seat of a Mini Cooper with a seatbelt. He's helped into the car, and he's never off leash.
In terms of socialization, the Great Pyrenees has daily interaction with family members, sleeps indoors by the front door or in one of the kids' rooms, is able to see horses, birds, lives, and wildlife, but there are no other pets that this dog interacts with.
The English Bulldog interacts with owners of the book and with its owners and bookstore clients, plus familiar shopkeepers on daily walks. He sleeps in the owner's bed and he uses a dog ramp to get into the bed. He does live with an elderly indoor cat.
In terms of nutrition, the Great Pyrenees is fed in the house twice a day, dry dog food, has 24/7 access to water, is rewarded with milk-bone dog biscuits, and has a body condition of 4.5, with 5 being ideal.
The English Bulldog is fed 3 times daily with a combination of dry and moist premium food. He is provided water many times during the day. He is rewarded with specialty dog treats from a local shop, and his body condition score is 5.5, with 5 being ideal.
In terms of veterinary care, Great Pyrenees goes to the vet when it is felt that the Great Pyrenees needs to go to the vet. She was spayed at 10 months. She did have osteochondritis of the right shoulder, which was successfully surgically fixed when she was 15 months of age. She's on monthly heartworm, flea, and tick prevention, and her vaccinations are up to date.
The English Bulldog has an annual wellness examination. He was neutered at 6 months. He did have a skin infection at 14 months of age, which was successfully treated with antibiotics, and he has had no recurrence of the skin issues. He is on year-round heartworm prevention. He is vaccinated every 3 years per the DVM recommendation. He is an urban dog, so there is no Lyme vaccine.
In terms of special breed considerations, Great Pyrenees are double-coated dogs, so this dog needs to be brushed at least weekly. She's bathed annually or as needed, and they have double dew claws. It's a sign of the breed, and those need to be trimmed frequently.
The English Bulldog has his facial folds cleaned and dried weekly. He is bathed every 4 months or as needed. He is kept in air conditioning during the hot weather, and he is walked outside sparingly in the hot, humid weather.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes to consider who has the better welfare, the Great Pyrenees or the English Bulldog. You timing this? Yeah, okay. Bye, Cathy. You found the ticket? Sure, you found the ticket in the parking lot. Yeah. I have to do something with this ticket. No, it's Cowboy Ticket Christmas. Wow. Where? know, I changed peanut butter, whipped cream to peanut butter on there, and it allows better Yeah. Young and keeping track of time for us. Okay. Are you ready? We're going to need to. Okay, has everybody had time to figure out who they think has the better welfare? Even if you haven't, time is up. So I'd like a show of hands. Who thinks the Great Pyrenees has the better welfare? Who thinks the Bulldog has the better welfare? Hi, Sandy. Okay, who is willing to come up and tell us why they think that? Okay, Shireen, you're up. We always have to have plants because people get more willing to talk if they realize that other people are talking. No, we won't hurt you.
Okay, so first off, being a shelter vet, I think both of these dogs have great lives. I mean, I would be happy for any of my dogs to end up in either of these houses. So I just want to say that first off. Second off, this was really hard because I can't imagine a better place than a bookstore or a horse ranch. I mean, which would I rather be? Could I do both, right? But I went with the Great Pyrenees, and I know I was, kind of circling things that were maybe a little riskier for him, or for her. Like she was off leash sometimes. She didn't have a car seat there where she was buckled in and things like that. But she also got to walk around the ranch, and so there's a little added risk for her. But then I'm thinking, what's life without a little risk? So that's why I went with the Great Pyrenees.
Excellent. Thanks, Sharon. Okay, I need somebody else. Somebody else give us their reasons. Come on down. This is a non-judgmental group of people. We just want to know what you think.
Okay, so for me, I went with the Great Pyrenees. I'm a country girl, so both situations sounded wonderful. But I'm also a vet tech, and I know obesity is a disease, and that little Bulldog's only getting fatter. So that was my cut.
Good point, Heather. Thanks. Okay, come on, somebody else. And when you guys are all done, then we will read our reasons, but we want to know what you think, because it's interesting what perspectives people bring to this scenario.
This sounds like a waffling answer, but I think both dogs have excellent welfare because based on how they were bred and differentiated back in the day, they both are happy the way they are. If we're kind of talking about the dog back when it was a wolf, possibly the Great Pyrenees. But the Bulldogs are so far removed from the original idea that he's very happy too. So,
good point. Yeah.
Can we have somebody who picked the Bulldogs come up and speak? Nobody picked the Bulldog?
Yes, somebody picked the Bulldog. Sandy picked the Bulldog.
I think that both of these dogs have an appropriate life. The Pyrenees would be miserable living the life that the Bulldog is living, and the Bulldog would be miserable living the life that the Pyrenees is living. So they're not the same animal. They need different environments. All of us live in different environments, and you pick the pet that suits your lifestyle.
So which one did you pick?
I think they are both living in appropriate environments. I'm fat and I like books. I'm happy to be the Bulldog.
Thank you. Okay, Sherry.
So I placed this class with the Pyrenees over the Bulldog. And I'm going to say that I placed this class this way because I have bias against Bulldogs. And I have bias against breeds that can only be born by cesarean section. And I have bias on welfare against promoting these types of continuations of breeds that have as many problems as they do.
So your bias allowed you to pick the Pyrenees even though the welfare of the specific dog was adequate or more than adequate.
Correct.
Excellent. Good point. That was good. Yeah. I love it when this happens.
Okay, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, but in reality, I did end up picking the Great Pyrenees over the Bulldog as far as welfare, but I thought I would come play the devil's advocate because there were a few things that I thought the English Bulldog had that would really give him a leg up. For one thing, I noticed that he's only had one skin infection in his life, and so that being, he's being 6 years old, I must imagine that he must have had incredible bloodlines, for a Bulldog at least, because I rarely see one that only has one skin infection their entire life. But one of the things that really stuck out to me was that the English Bulldog did get yearly wellness exams, and there's so much that you can pick up on a wellness exam every year that I think that the chances of them catching any sort of health conditions early on are much, much greater for him versus the Great Pyrenees when it's just the owners trying to look for things that might be wrong. So playing devil's advocate, I could say that then his welfare is better.
Good points. Thanks. Okay, Aaron, you're up. I don't know why it's so hard to get people to stand up at the microphone and talk a little. Jim Sikarsky, we are going to poll you. So I would rise if I was you and prepare to walk down the stairs.
Hey. I thought the Great Pyrenees had a better life, only because the English Bulldog, his mother actually didn't have x-rays when he was bred, and so English Bulldogs do have hip dysplasia normally. And even though he does have wellness checks every year, he is overweight, so they're not watching his weight for his hips for later on in his life.
Good point.
Everything that I wanted to say has already been said. So I chose the Great Pyrenees mostly because my lifestyle dictates that I would prefer the kind of a lifestyle that dog has. And also, again, I have a bias against Bulldogs. They're cute and they are friendly, but I do not enjoy seeing them for all their diseases that they have.
Thanks. Okay, Jim.
Well, I chose the Great Pyrenees over the Bulldog because, according to my wife Judy, who picked the Bulldog, I'd rather identify with the Great Pyrenees. But mostly I took into effect its health, its quality of life. Sure, everything was adjusted to give it a great life, but I like the idea of letting the dog be the dog that the dog historically has been, and not turning the Bulldog into something that has standards that people have invented to try to turn it into a companion that is more a person.
Good comment.
And then what iced it for me is the Great Pyrenees got to interact with wildlife.
Says the wildlife vet. Okay, does anybody else have anything they would like to say? Can we coerce anybody? Are there students here who might want to say something?
I picked the Great Pyrenees. It was really close till we got down to the nutrition and veterinary care because they both had suitable environments for their breeds. But like has already been mentioned, the body condition score is way too high for a dog that has the respiratory issues and orthopedic issues. I would consider neutering at 6 months, a little early considering the stuff they're finding out with the retrievers, and you'd like, especially when he's heavy, to have solid ligaments, so I would have waited on that. The vaccinations, some are good for 3 years, but there's still lepto, parainfluenza, and bordetella that would be every 6 months, especially if they're carried not by other dogs, but by people and mice. So that kind of really swayed it toward the Pyrenees for me. So
Good. Thanks, Judy.
I kind of went with the idea that the Pyrenees already had surgery and they were letting it jump in and out of the truck. That kind of struck me, but also the idea that it was able to get as much exercise as it needed, kind of on its own. It went inside and outside as it wished, basically, and it could interact with the kids and the family. So I kind of did end up picking that because the Bulldog, I felt like they did do some like preventative measures for hip problems and stuff like that with the ramp into the bed, and I think it said they assisted it into the car, but it's a much shorter car too. And then but they at the same time they were also overfeeding it a little bit, I think, and limiting its water. So that was kind of something else that stuck out to me for why the English Bulldog maybe wasn't as great a life as the Great Pyrenees.
Thanks. Okay, Heather, you're back. Oh, for Sandy, because she can't talk for herself.
I'm Sandy. So Sandy picked the Bulldog, mainly because he gets routine vet care and he goes yearly. Both dogs are exposed to many things, and both dogs should be seen yearly. And that was her deciding factor.
Thanks, Sandy. Okay, anybody else? Ed, do you want to weigh in? Where is Ed? Pager. I've lost him. You want to weigh in? No, you don't want to weigh in?
Janice is responsible for making all that stuff happen, so she can correct me when I'm wrong. And I can't remember, Janice, is this fairly similar? Is it almost the same? Pretty similar. So Janice had a couple other outcomes, but this was presented at the Animal Welfare Judging Team last week's competition at Ohio State. And I was fortunate enough to be invited down to be a judge for that. And I actually heard reasons for the Great Pyrenees versus English Bulldog competition. The expert judges decided to rank the Bulldog over the Great Pyrenees. We had two companion or dog veterinarians, dog specialists that kind of guided the decision making. And so a lot of the vet care and that type of thing were the reasons that they put forward as putting the Bulldog above the Great Pyrenees. And it was interesting, the individual bias that came out, because there was a lot of people who stood up, and I was doing the grad student competition, and they were so reluctant to put the Bulldog above the Great Pyrenees. It was so difficult. The answer, I think, is from the judge's perspective, it was really close, and a lot of you have said that. A lot of you have echoed a lot of things that they said. The quality of life is excellent for both animals, given what their circumstances are. And the animals are being well looked after, and it was a very, very close call. So if you know anything about judging competition, there's cuts that people give based on making ranking it differently than the judge might rank it. So if it's very obvious, you get a large cut, like a cut of 4 points. If it's very close, it can be a cut of 1, and in this case, it was a cut of 1. And I would say about 70% of the students that I saw actually ranked the Bulldog above the Great Pyrenees. So very interesting result.
Thanks, Ed. Anybody else got any more comments? Thanks for stepping up.
So I maintain my original answer, but I do want to join in with Ed. I wasn't really considering... Microphone? I wanted to advocate for the Bulldog's emotional well-being because he's a happy guy. I had not looked at the veterinary care, but when you can spend the whole day meeting and greeting clients at the bookstore, when you have all your familiar friends and you're the center of attention, you're a happy bulldog. You have a ramp to get up to your bed. You have all these lovely quality of life issues. So I did want to advocate for the bulldog. Yes, he's a happy guy too, based on his emotional status.
Janice. You have to get out because people can't hear you. It's payback, Janice.
So as Ed mentioned, we saw this at the intercollegiate welfare judging competition last week, and Lana and Cathy together had crafted the bulk of this scenario. One of the things that I added for this for our students to assess was the outcomes, more outcomes for the dogs. I've heard a few people say that the Pyrenees is living the kind of life it wants, or the Bulldog is happy. Is there evidence on these slides that actually lets you know that? Or is that just how you would feel if you were the Bulldog or the Pyrenees in those situations? Okay? So one thing that's really critical when we're assessing welfare is how does the animal respond to the human inputs? Okay? Welfare is not something we give an animal. It is something an animal possesses as an individual characteristic. So how does the Bulldog respond to this bookstore? And so you have to look at those little pieces that say it willingly greets people, right? That it interacts with other people willingly, is not being approached and forced to interact. So we know there's a ramp near the bed. We don't know if the Bulldog uses the ramp, right? We don't know what happens to Rue when she's in the back of the truck. Does she fall over, or does she lay down like a good dog and stay stable? So just to point out that little bit, that, yeah, to me this is a really close scenario, but without actually getting into what the dog experiences and looking at that part, it can be hard to know. So that personal bias we have in terms of how this would affect us, we've got to take a step back and say, how does the animal respond?
Thanks, Janice. Okay, one last chance. Anybody have anything else they want to add? Or we will read our reasons, or at least we will attempt to read our reasons. Everybody good? Okay. I place the welfare of the Great Pyrenees above that of the Bulldog for reasons of natural behavior, nutrition, and living situation compatible with the breed. I recognize that both dogs have good welfare, and I grant that the Bulldog's social environment and veterinary care is enhanced when compared to the Great Pyrenees. The living situation of the Great Pyrenees is well situated to the breed, as the dog is able to patrol 20 acres that's fenced at will and choose to be inside or out. For this breed, I place a high value on her ability to choose her environment and to move and exercise as she desires. This is also important for the well-being of a dog with a history of shoulder surgery. That was a tough one to say. While the Great Pyrenees does not interact with other dogs, I believe that as a breed, the Great Pyrenees does not value conspecific interaction to the extent that other breeds do. So I do not consider that this is a welfare issue. Furthermore, the frequent positive human interactions mitigate this issue. While both dogs have acceptable body condition scores, the Bulldog has more condition than the Great Pyrenees. I believe that a large breed like a Great Pyrenees benefits from being on the thinner side of optimal by decreasing strain on joints. A study by Yates and Main from UK recently named obesity as the #1 welfare issue in pets. Thus, the Bulldog's greater condition may be a developing welfare concern. In regards to nutrition, I place the Great Pyrenees over the Bulldog because the Bulldog's diet seems to be human-driven rather than based on the dog's need. I grant that both dogs have adequate but different nutrition. While the Bulldog receives regular and routine veterinary care, the Great Pyrenees does not suffer from chronic breed-related condition and sees the veterinarian on a PRN basis. Although the Great Pyrenees had shoulder surgery for a heritable condition, the surgery resolved the issue. The Bulldog's ability to exercise or be outside is limited by his brachiocephalic conformation. Although these are breed-related issues, I grant that the living condition has been tailored to meet the needs of the Bulldog. Neither dog shows evidence of abnormal behaviors. Both dogs have breed-appropriate and equal early socialization, grooming, and training. Both dogs have adequate, albeit different, exercise programs, lifestyles, and transportation. Both dogs have good welfare. In summary, I value the Great Pyrenees' ability to exercise and choose her environment over the Bulldog's veterinary care and human social interaction. For these reasons, I place the Great Pyrenees above the Bulldog in terms of welfare. Oh, my goodness, I was trying to get out of the way.
All right. I place the welfare of the Bulldog above the welfare of the Great Pyrenees. I grant that both dogs have appropriate or better than appropriate welfare. I place the Bulldog above the Great Pyrenees because of social interaction opportunities, safety, and veterinary care. I value the Bulldog's social interaction opportunities more highly than the fact that the Great Pyrenees has independent access to the outdoors. The Bulldog is constantly in the company of humans, resulting in an improved social environment. As a breed, the Bulldog is people-oriented. I grant that the social needs of the Great Pyrenees may be met with human interaction, but I place the higher value on the consistent human interaction of the Bulldog. I grant that the Great Pyrenees lives in a more natural environment than the Bulldog, who spends the majority of the day inside. However, the living situation and social interaction of the Bulldogs are tailored for the dog and very compatible with the needs of the breed. The Bulldog is able to interact daily with a variety of people, including his family, while the Great Pyrenees only interacts with her family. Neither dog shows evidence of behavior problems, again suggesting both dogs have appropriate welfare. I place the Bulldog's veterinary care above that of the Great Pyrenees since the Bulldog receives annual wellness exams. Furthermore, the Bulldog receives consideration for special breed needs. I place the Bulldog's activities and living situation above that of the Great Pyrenees because the constant human supervision will likely prevent accidents, injuries, or exposures to toxins and enable the owners to observe any changes that may require a veterinary exam. I also believe the Bulldog's living situation is highly compatible with the breed. The Bulldog is never off leash and rides in the car with a seatbelt, while the Great Pyrenees jumps in and out of the pickup and rides with her head out the window, both of which could be concerns for the Great Pyrenees. The body condition of the Bulldog, although acceptable, is 1 score more than that of the Great Pyrenees and 1/2 score above optimal. The Bulldog's greater body condition score is most likely due to differences in breed and exercise level and is not a welfare concern. I appreciate the Bulldog is fed 3 times a day, plus treats, while the Great Pyrenees is fed twice daily. Both dogs have clean, shiny coats and similar early socialization, training, and management of breed-specific special considerations. In summary, I place the Bulldog above the Great Pyrenees for his veterinary care, safety, and ability to interact daily with multiple people. I temper this placing, noting that both dogs have more than adequate welfare.
Okay, so what we wanted to do and what we've done in our scenarios in the past is give you 2 examples where the welfare is really good and where your particular bias will make your choice. And so what I would suggest is that when you're looking at a welfare issue, that you be aware that you bring your own baggage with you and that your perspective and your perceptions may not actually be reality. And with that, I think it's lunchtime, isn't it? No, it's not lunchtime. Oh, okay, don't leave. What are we doing now? Temple, where are you? You're next. Thank you, guys. You were a great audience. So I was confused. Aaron, do you want to? Or no? Whatever.